Good, good, good. So I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. It's great to meet you.
Hey, likewise. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's hop into your life as the last city cowboy. I love that term. And I want to begin with COVID. How did you survive that time period? It was quite a time to live
Oh,
through. And how did it change you?
wow. First of all, as a law enforcement official, I had no choice but to report to work. So if you was an emergency responder, unfortunately, you still had to respond. But yeah, it was very saddening and very depressing. Though most people probably wouldn't use those terms, but yeah, every time I would report back to work, I mean, it just seemed like something out of a horror movie. It
Yep.
was a ghost town. The buildings that we protect and all that. The minute you enter the buildings, I mean, I'm a people's person, so I'm used to like seeing people, talking to people, and just having fun with people, and to not have that type of response, yeah, it was really like bringing me down. But being that, through like my military experience and just, I guess, more or less being that upper type of guy that sometimes people look up to, I had to show like a different type of demeanor. The way I was either controlling myself or not to show any type of like sadness or anything like that. So I always try to keep myself at an upscale. But yeah, it was hard. It was hard because you're away from family, you're away from friends. And like I said, I'm a people's person. I like to be out there. I like to, communicate with people physically, not on the phone, texting or anything like that. So yeah, it had an impact.
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis right now in 2024. If I put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and one of them said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Well, besides, I would go in so many different ways because besides law enforcement, which I love my job and I love doing, I do martial arts on the side. I teach boxing. Uh, I try to give myself some creative time, like to write as well, but there's just not enough time in the day.
Yeah.
By the time you look at it, life is too busy, and by the time you know it, it's like for what you really want to do, it's almost time to go to bed and get ready for the next day. So, yeah.
So talk to me about growing up in the Bronx and kind of how you evolved to this point in your life. What were some seeds that were planted for you to get into the Navy and law enforcement and right?
Growing up in the Bronx was wild. I wasn't like the I say great kid that most kids usually are nursed by like their family, and you're always by the family. And my mother tried her best, but when you come from a family of nine, being that I was the last kid on the pole, they just had enough. So I pretty much got away with a lot of things that I shouldn't have been doing. But the streets geared me up. I was always in trouble. I remember getting into so many fights, not that I'm proud of, but it did make me a tougher cookie to like deal, with reality and the things up ahead. But yeah, the Bronx is tough. It when you're in a congested society, which for me, the Bronx seems to have like more buildings out of like the five boroughs. So of course there's gonna be like more people
Yeah.
living in there. And with anything, when you only have like limited space, you're only asking for trouble. So, if you're in the wrong place, wrong time, wrong neighborhood, or anything of that matter, yeah, you're gonna encounter problems. And that's pretty much what used to happen. And if it wasn't that, it would probably be something else that I wasn't quite proud of. But the main thing is that I survived. I survived, and
Yeah, and
it
you've
made me a
survived.
better person.
Yeah, for sure. And you've survived pretty well. So who was that hero or inspiration that's helped you get to where you are today?
Believe it or not, I listen to people on the radio like Steve Harvey. I love his inspirational messages. Denzel Washington, who's like one of my biggest actors, in Hollywood. Um, Those two would probably be like the most that I usually like listening to from time to time. Not that I don't need it as much now, but back then, especially during some of the hard times, they just like seem to hit a spot. For some odd reason, I would be surfacing the radio or television, and they would just appear in the message. It was always like a positive message. So I really respect those guys.
So if you can meet anybody on the planet right now that you find fascinating, that you find interesting, who would it be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Definitely Denzel Washington.
Okay. What would you like to know?
What would I like to know about him? Or
Yeah, what would you
ju-
ask him? What would be the first thing you would ask him?
I would like to I would like to for him to tell me more or less like the hardships. I think I would concentrate more like on the hardships of him starting off, and I guess kind of like the steps all the way up to his success.
Yeah. So, what is it for you every day to get up and to do the work that you do? What is it that gets you out of bed, that helps you do a good job, and to also evolve as a human being yourself?
I, for me, it's like I love what I do, and I guess I love the people. I love being around the people that I work with. Even if we don't see eye to eye, I always goof around and tell people if we can't see eye to eyes because either one of us wear glasses. Just joking around.
Yeah.
But no, I really enjoy the people. I enjoy my job, and I have great bosses, so I can't really say anything else, more than that.
So, of all of the times in your professional life that you've had in your timeline, what was the one thing or one day, 1 month, 1 year, one client? What was the hardest period that was the sweetest at the end that made you grow the most?
I would probably have to say 9/11. 9/11 really took not only the wind out of me, but after sharing, the sobbing stories over and over again, which I didn't even know I was like mentally being affected by it. I guess I was in denial, but after sharing the stories with, a lot of the families that also had suffered as well and stuff like that, I think it was more or less everybody coming together. I had never seen a city fall apart and somehow just like everybody just come into like one big family. And if I could see that on a daily basis, this would probably be like the best place on the planet.
So did you
But
watch all
yeah,
that did you watch all that happen?
yes, I was affected by it. I was off at the time. I just had gotten off, so I wasn't there when the first plane had struck. But immediately I was called and responding back to the scene, to the location. I got trapped on the West Side Highway. So I was forced, along with every other emergency vehicle, to abandon their vehicles. Thank God, because 10 minutes after I abandoned my vehicle and ran to the facility to change, the first building had came down.
Wow.
And it just so happens when I went back to, get in my car, it was no longer intact. I had like a 12-foot beam, that landed right on top of my truck. So I ended up losing my truck. But yeah, no, it was hard.
Wow. So of
Yeah.
of all of these things that you've done, accomplished, and overcome in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Um, though I really didn't strike much success within the ranks in the military, I'm still proud that I have served my military for 10 years. I mean, the military, I couldn't see it at the time, but the military has really given me so much. Besides education, maturity, to travel around the world, meet new people, uh, meet, countries that I never would have ever, have gone to, on my own. But just the experience overall, the organization, the exercises, joint exercises, and just the people that I've come across, I would definitely say the military.
So your book is a mixture of things that have happened in your life and fiction. It's a very interesting weaving of narrative. Give everybody kind of a flavor of the book so they can go out and grab it.
The book itself, it's about aliens, more or less entering our planet and kidnapping our women. And in the process of doing so, they have been doing this for like decades or hundreds of years. But this time it turns out a little bit different. This time they encountered something that they weren't expecting to encounter, and it's a person by the name DJ, also known as the Last City Cowboy. Now, DJ is from a dark organization from another part of the FBI who was recruited during while being an orphan. He's an orphan living in an orphanage, but being brought up by the state, and it just turns out that it happens to be a recruiting ground. So in the process of doing so, as he's growing through the years, he's also getting the special type of training um, from a master martial artist, where now once he becomes a man, he's expected to perform. So during the accomplishments of him having four successful um, abduction cases, now comes the biggest test where the FBI puts him to the test. And he was basically supposed to be the eyes and ears for this job. The job takes place in New Mexico in the forest, and they don't give him much of the intel because they really don't want to spook him. But what happens is that once he gets there, he's under the impression that he's more or less keeping eyes and ears open for like drug trafficking. What he encounters 3 days later becomes an eye awakening because now for the first time he encounters aliens. Now he doesn't know, how to go about this. And what I show that even though being an action hero, DJ happens to have also a vulnerable side. So yeah, he's a bit scared. He doesn't know how to react. And certain things will trigger DJ. But at this time right now, he's at a vulnerable stage where he's actually seeing aliens for the first time. And what becomes more disturbing is that he's actually witnessing aliens carrying women on stretchers and lowering them to the spacecraft. Well, DJ has a big thing for women, and because he loves women so much, that already had touched, like an edge. But what he sees next, which is the third woman being lowered on the stretcher, just happens to be a redhead with big boobs. And now this really triggers him off because now he's like, there is no way this female is leaving the planet. You can take the ugly ones, but you're definitely not taking her. So what it comes to, he's got no choice but to call a person that he's actually in love with, which actually runs the agency. She's a top director in Washington who calls the shots, and has got him assigned as a contracted assigned person to this case. So when he gives her the call, he just happens to get the voice message where he's basically telling her, "Look, I know I'm supposed to be eyes and ears, but the type of person that I am, and because of what's happening right now, I cannot let this happen," and decides to go for it. So when he decides to engage, this is where it really picks up. Now the plot thickens because he's got no choice to react. By the time he gets to the spacecraft, he loses the aliens. They enter like this illusional type of pyramid, which it's like an open window for like a matter of seconds. So the minute the last alien goes through it, it just like suddenly disappears. But he still has an interest to get into the spaceship. As he gets into the spaceship, what ends up happening is he was only thinking about them three females. But what he encounters next becomes mind blowing because now, as he goes further into the ship looking for these aliens and carrying these three stretchers, what he ends up finding is a whole chamber full of women locked up in these chambers. So now it becomes a more bigger picture. And now he's like, now he really got to act. So in the process of trying to figure out what he's going to do next, all the instructions, the controls, everything, there's something that he's never seen before, so therefore he doesn't know how to operate them. But one thing that he does keep in mind is that, wait a minute, as he holds back, he's like thinking, you know what, these aliens might be up to something because even though all these women are trapped in the chamber, they actually found a way how to shut them up. That's the Lori Pine,
Yeah,
the joking side of DJ.
yeah.
But no, now he's got to save these women, so he's got no choice but to basically fire his weapon. When he discharges his weapon, this is where it creates a problem because now he alerts the aliens that there's an intruder on board, and though he successfully was able to chamber a couple of rounds into the chamber where this liquid that the women are being kept in, they start pouring out of the glass. He didn't think it would be as successful, but it actually engages something that later on they'll be able to release themselves. But in the process of him discharging the weapon, what ends up happening is that now he's got the aliens coming after him. One and two, maybe DJ would have hanged around, but now when he sees a gang full of aliens and he's taking on fire, he's got no choice but to run. I may look like a hero, but
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a time when you got to pick and choose your battles.
Absolutely. So have you ever witnessed a UFO in the sky before?
No, no,
Okay.
no. And
Yeah.
and even if I did, I'll be the first one to tell you there is no hero on this side. I mean, I don't mind saving a human life from certain things that I can handle, but if you was to ask me the question whether I would actually approach a spaceship of any form or whatever, I'd be like, look, I'll be a hero, but only if you can catch up with me. So I'm running the opposite way.
That's right.
Please join me.
I love it. So you've gone through a lot in your life. You've seen a lot, you've evolved, you've grown into through so many things. If you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, getting ready to go out into the world, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would tell them honestly, the world is an ugly place until you find your place where you can make a difference. And what I mean by that is you really have to know yourself. You know, you have to love yourself, you have to know yourself, and you have to know your purpose. So by me saying that, it basically means that if you have a passion for something and people are telling you right off the bat, stop wasting your time with that. There's no money in that. You know, do not listen to that.
Yeah.
If you have a passion, a desire, and something gravitates towards you where it can take much of your time or your entire day while you're doing it, I say stick with it.
Yeah.
Because what may seem simple, or I'll put it this way, let's say jumping rope. If a person was to say, well, I want to make money jumping rope. Well, yeah, besides maybe going in the market to sell the ropes is one idea. But now, if you was to say, no, I just want to make money jumping rope, then I would say, well, how are you going to approach it? Now, if you tell me you don't have an idea, I would probably say this. If you wanted to market yourself in jumping rope, this is what I would do. So, in the process of doing so, all right, you know that you can jump maybe two or three different ways, which is more or less what people are used to like seeing all the time. But now, let's say that if you take it to another level and you decide not only to jump on your toes, and you tell people and explain people by jumping on your toes, now you're developing your calves. Okay. That's one part of the body. Now, if you start jumping in a squatting position, guess what? Now you're developing the upper part of your legs as if you was to be doing squats as well as with your buttocks. Now, if you was to be jumping in a sideways position, focusing more like on your dominant hand, now you're working on this stage of the body, which is your right side, and then you would do the same for the other. So you're actually now looking at it like in the business sense as to like health, as to improve different parts of your bodies. And this as well, this is where now you become like a seller's market. So when you break it down like that, now it makes sense. Okay, this guy is not only a person that jumps rope, but he's also kind of like a mentor or a health aid when it comes to the body. He knows what parts of the body to develop to to bring up your cardio, but at the same time to kind of like more or less bring you to a level where you'll be content with your body.
Yeah.
So when you break it like that, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So everyone out there has a perception of you. Family, friends, everybody that you've worked with, everyone that reads your book, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a great person, a caring person, a person that likes to joke around. I like to have fun. Um, Now more than ever, I believe in life. And the thing is that I've come to a part in my life where I enjoy me more than I ever did before. Because now it's like as you get a little bit older, you can kind of weave out the nonsense and just focus on what's good for you, what's not good for you. And I'd rather choose the good parts than the bad parts if I'm going to have an option in life.
Yeah. So our Royals are going to be up there in New York playing you guys tonight. We got a 3-game
Uh,
set. What,
I feel sorry for you guys. I feel sorry for you
see,
guys.
you just answered my second question. How are you guys going to do this year? What do you think?
Oh, I think they're going to do exceptionally well. I think they're going to do remarkably well, and we're definitely going to go out with a big bang.
I love Soto, man. What a great fit, you know? Great fit. All right, man. Hey, if anyone wants to pick up the book, anybody wants to reach out, learn more about you, any of the myriad of stories that are a part of your world, where do they go?
They can just type in my first name, which is Dihilio, Dilgilio, last name Rodriguez, Rodriguez. That'll immediately throw you in the Google side and all my stuff that I've done over the many years, whether it's music, whether it's my clothing line, and now the books. They can go about it that way, or they can actually go on my website. My website is thelastcitycowboy.com. That's thelastcitycowboy.com, and that'll take you directly into Amazon, where you can purchase all my other books and music and everything else that I have listed on Amazon.
Beautiful, man. What a great story, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your story. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for having me. You're the best.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Take care.